From The Standard in London, I'm David Ellis, the paper's going out editor. In this episode, I caught up with Josh Barrie, one of our food writers, to discuss our latest list of the capital's 50 best gastropubs. Don't worry, it's not all 50, we go through our top 5. So, let's get into it. Welcome back to the Standard Podcast. I'm David Ellis, I'm the paper's food and drink editor, and I'm joined by Josh Barrie, one of our preeminent food writers. So, we're going to discuss our top 50 favourite gastropubs in London, as per the article that we've just published. So I suppose my first question for you, Josh, is what makes a gastropub?
Well, a gastropub is food-led. Most of them are still, you can still go in and have a pint and a Scotch egg or a sausage roll and treat it as a pub. Some even show the football, but a gastropub obviously kind of concentrates on food, good produce, British cooking, and the thing I love so much about them is that they really help democratise good food in the UK and fly the flag for kind of British identity in showcasing the fact that, you know, our food and our can be brilliant, where before restaurants were predominantly French, Italian, what have you.
Yeah, I mean, I think you wrote that in your entry for The Audley, where Jamie Shears is cooking upstairs. And you just sort of going, if you're a skeptic, you maybe have a friend over from wherever, let's say France or maybe America, you could persuade them that actually British food is really good and here's the way to experience it. I think it is interesting though, just because is the term gastropub a bit redundant now because so many pubs are expected to serve a bit of food these days in a way that they weren't maybe 30 years ago?
Certainly outside of London, pubs have increasingly leaned on food as a way to attract customers.
Well, there's no drink driving anymore, I suppose.
No. So, you know, you would probably expect to find food in a pub outside of London for sure, even if that's just fish and chips and a steak or a burger, you know. But in London, there's still very much a case for the term because we've got wet-led pubs. You still go in and you have a drink and then you've got pubs that still have a proper bar and they still feel and look like a proper pub, but they've got perhaps a dining room upstairs or at the back or even just among the tables in the normal room.
It's city
there's
versus
great food to be found, yeah.
You're right, and it's city versus country pub in that
Yes,
aspect.
absolutely.
We probably need to come up with a new term and then like copyright that so we can get very wealthy off it.
Yeah, let's do that. That's a good plan.
Shall we get into our list then?
Yes,
So kicking off is the French House in Soho. It's been there since 1992. Fergus and Margot Henderson started that together and first made that dining room really special. And I mean, it's had lots of chefs in there afterwards. Florence Knight, who was at Sessions Arts Club until recently, was there. And tell us about it now. Who's in charge now?
Neil Borthwick is in charge, an excellent chef. The French House is wonderful because it's a classic gastropub in every sense in that downstairs it's a pub. Most people will know about it. Upstairs, you've got wooden floors, you've got a sort of rustic edge, but you've got great service, really technically sound food, and an interesting and good wine list, but equally one that gets too lofty in prices.
Doesn't get too pricey. I think that's important with gastropubs, right? Yes. I hate when you go somewhere and you feel obliged to spend. And I think a great gastropub kind of goes, chill out, it's still a boozer. We've just got great food, enjoy it.
Yeah. You can go in and just have a beer and a steak if you like, or you can go a little bit crazy and spend lots, but you can go in there and have a starter and a main course and a glass of wine and spend, I don't know, 40 quid probably. And that's a really good thing because it helps to, as I said before, helps to democratise good food. And that's probably the thing to celebrate most about gastropubs.
Yeah, and I mean, he's got great garlic on toast, which I know is a favourite of yours. Mm-hmm. I've had calves brains there, which were delicious. And I like the idea you can go off-piste if you want to, but there's no pressure. And because it is, and I say this with love because I adore the French House, because it is slightly shabby in there, there's something kind of relaxing inherently about it, which I also think is important in a gastropub. However, number 2 is definitely on the smarter end of things. We've got the Waterman's Arms in Barnes, not a part of London I often find myself in, but from the guys behind Patty and Bun, you've got a very elegant pub. They do a martini. I don't normally want cocktails in a pub, but the fact that they do there so well means that it's worth it. You've got this steak board where they just tell you what cuts they've got in that day. You can have spit roasted chicken. It's simple food. It's just done really, really well, and I think it helps that it's really close to the water, so it's kind of a beautiful area to be in.
Clues in the name, really, with that one.
Yeah, I probably should have assumed that people would pick that up. You're right.
What I love, it's a good thing in that I think generally gastropubs should be rustic and a bit shabby chic, is the phrase, I think. But there is also a point to be made about some pubs appearing a little bit contrived. They go too far in that. They might not naturally have had all the kind of jagged tables and books everywhere and so on and so forth, mismatched cutlery and what have you. The Waterman's Arms is pretty kind of glossy, isn't it? But it is still a pub. It's not gone too far into the kind of upmarket sphere, would you say? Or
I think, Lawrence Sterling-Byrne, you're right. Should we move on to number 3, which is the OG,
the
1991's The Eagle. Tell us about The Eagle.
The Eagle, were you to come in from Europe or America or anywhere, actually, it just seems like a pub. It really is. And every day, I don't want to say boozer because it's not a boozer, but here is a place with kind of, different tables, different chairs, a proper bar, good service, but not, overbearing.
It kind of set the template as well, right? With the daily changing menu, sort of chalk blackboard, all of that stuff that we take for granted in the gastropub today, and we expect, actually, the Eagle just did that because people were just asking them for food, and it just was so successful and changed the way that we do go out that it's become the norm.
It's quite funny now. Most press releases say ingredient-led, local produce, seasonal menus, when, none of this is new. It was done at the Eagle back in the day without any sort of fanfare. It's just, hey, look, we've got some great farms and we've got some great cheese, and look at the fish. The fish is great. They want capers and butter and lemon, and that's what we're going to do, and we're going to not charge too much, and we're going to give you a pint if you want a pint, or a bottle of wine if you want a bottle of wine. We're going to do it without too much pretense, hey-ho, and that is probably why it sort of is an institution, and why a lot of the kind of food chat around these days in 2024 is just complete nonsense.
I agree. I also think probably it picked up on what was happening in the 80s with, say, like Alistair Little or Andrew Edmonds in terms of what they were doing in restaurants, proper, great, brilliant restaurants. But that sort of slightly laissez-faire approach to, well, we could do it like this, or we could just do it like this today, and that changing, but making sure that you've got the best ingredients and doing it really well. Let's go to a quick break. Make sure to hit follow in the meantime. Speaking of best ingredients and doing it quite well, we get to number 4, which I don't suppose any of our listeners have heard of, but we are pioneers of this. So it's called the Devonshire. It's sort of near Piccadilly.
Not heard of it, mate, I'm afraid.
No, we should just skip over. No, I'm kidding, of course. So what we've got is the pub from Ossian Rogers, Charlie Carroll, who founded Flatiron, and, of course, Ashley Palmer-Watts, who made his name with 20 years at Heston Blumenthal's Fat Duck. Itself a former pub, but very definitely not a gastro. Why do you think the Devonshire is caught on, and in particular the food? What do you think stands out about it there?
Oh, this is such a big question, and we've written about it extensively, and I don't think it needs any introduction, does it? Because it is a viral pub. I don't really want to get into it. I will just tell you very quickly about why. One thing about it that I thought was brilliant was that I took my mum for Mother's Day, and she doesn't know anything about anything in terms of kind of London food scene. We went upstairs. She had langoustines and lamb chops, and when I went outside for a cigarette, I came back upstairs and found her talking to Ashley Palmer-Watts, who was on the grill because they were short-staffed, and she didn't have a clue who he was, much to my amusement, and he was just sitting there with her, talking to her about the food, where they get the langoustines from, how they do the lamb chops on the big grill. She was sipping her half Guinness, and I just thought that was really lovely. And if you think that they do that just because, I'm here at the Standard and blah,
they don't
blah,
know
blah,
who you are, mate. Chill out.
No, they don't. Exactly. So thank you for that, David. They just do. If you go in there and have food, then you're going to get bread rolls, and you're going to get great service, and you're going to get brilliant foods. And you're going to get. That's a nice thing, isn't it?
Yeah, you're going to be set at ease. I also think kind of what you were saying in the introduction about it just being very good examples of stuff. They do a pea and ham soup that is just pea and ham soup. They do a prawn cocktail that's just a prawn cocktail. They do sticky toffee pudding that's just sticky toffee pudding. They haven't elevated them. They've just done the best versions of them, but they've not added caviar, or they haven't added, like extra sort of whipped roe into that.
I don't think caviar has a if a gastropub does caviar, I think you've gone wrong.
I also think if you added caviar to sticky toffee pudding, you should probably be in jail.
I don't know.
But there's this, they're not tweezering it, they're not adding extra things, they're not trying to glitz it up. It's just, here's the best possible way we think that this could taste. And in many ways, they've become the definitive example of that, which is great. But yes, as you say, we've written extensively about this. It's somewhere that we both go and spend our own money quite a lot.
Yeah.
And I think probably that says it all. I think everyone, among all the writers who contributed to this piece, it was a no-brainer that it would be very near the top, which for a new opening, or sorry, not new, opened last November, but for a newish opening, is actually really impressive.
Pretty new. And you've got to have a word for the Guinness. Like, for all gastropubs pursuing a food-led environment, just harking back to that original point, it still has to be a pub. You still have to have a good pint.
Yeah.
And Guinness is the sort of flagship in pints, isn't it? So,
and the bar snacks actually are brilliant.
Yeah, a steak sandwich is a good one.
Stunning. From the new to the slightly old, tell me about number 5, which is the Marksman.
The Marksman is sort of the old new. So the Marksman opened kind of in between, didn't it? It preceded the likes of the Waterman's Arms and the Devonshire by years and years and years, but came after. It wouldn't exist without the likes of the Eagle. And I just think it's a really nice example of a Hackney pub that, you know, entrepreneurial,
Modern
ambitious
British
people came in and thought, let's do great modern British food. It's a beautiful, beautiful pub outside and in. And the pies, I think, are the... You know, you've got to have a good pie, and the pies are brilliant.
Yeah, and, you know, kind of a strong European inflection on what they put out. And I also think it's interesting because although, as we said, it's not brand new, they do sort of move with the times. So the food, the pies, obviously, it's a pie. But then they've got these low-intervention wines on the menu and things like that, just little small changes that mean that there's always a reason to go back. And I think as much as we adore the French... And that's changed quite a lot over the years. And as much as we adore the Eagle, it hasn't changed that much over the years. There is something to be said for a gastropub that goes, look, we know that tastes have changed. And I think that's where sometimes gastropubs don't do so well, is where you get like a balsamic glaze, because when they opened in 2005, that was the thing to do. And I think just that sort of, you either go incredibly classic or you just keep moving with the times. And I think the Marksman has always done a good job of staying relevant. So obviously that's our top 5, but if listeners want to catch up with the other 45 that have made up the list and actually maybe add their own to the comments, they can head to our website, standard.co.uk/goingouts. I know that we had quite a few arguments about trying to decide where we should put it, and I'm sure that people have their opinions. I'm proud of it. I think we've hopefully managed to represent the food-led pub scene in London quite well, but what I'm looking forward to is going to a few more this year, and certainly responding to the readers' comments and seeing where they love and where maybe we just haven't explored yet. Yeah,
there's certainly, I'm sure, there'll be new pubs on the horizon, ones that we need to go to, and that's great. That's exciting. It's cool that London has such a vibrant gastropub scene, isn't it, really?
Yeah, but I mean, the other thing is we haven't been able to get everywhere. The fact is, this list at 50 probably took, God, I don't want to think how many pubs that I went to just to kind of narrow this down. And I think there'll be somewhere that we just haven't gone far enough north, haven't gone far enough south. And I think that'll be quite good fun. I'm sure we've got a few meals in us yet.
Yes, absolutely we do. Yeah, I'm quite hungry actually.
Well, let's go to the pub. And that's The Standard. For all the latest news, head to standard.co.uk. And this podcast will be back at 4 p.m. on Monday.